For the newly indoctrinated, Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files follows the story of a professional wizard in Chicago. We started our podcast as a way to help break down the series' most important moments, characters, and lore. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure at it by your own risk. Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 8.21, Settled the Score, where we are covering the novel Grave Peril. My name is Tanzin, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
Ow, ow!
Woo!
Last episode of Grave Peril.
Yes.
Last 2 chapters of Grave Peril.
Yeah, last 2. Chapter 38. Dresden dispatches security, and Bianca makes Dresden an offer. Complete forgiveness in his life in exchange for Susan. Harry declines, knowing it would be seen as an act of war. Bianca orders an attack, and in a quick decision, Dresden releases all the spirits who had died at the vampire's hands upon them. The ghosts destroy Bianca, the vampires, and the mansion, allowing for Dresden, Susan, and Justine to escape.
I'd like to throw an addition into this episode, brought by Matt, who is a frequent guest of ours. He said something awesome in the Discord, and we're going to throw it into this episode, because this one hasn't come out yet. So I can still do it. I can't throw it into the last episode because it came out already, but...
okay, we'll go with that, sure.
So Matt brought up this really great allegory? Is that the word for it?
I could be.
Could be, depending
what you're
If you read our Discord, you know what I was talking about. Essentially, he was comparing the way in which Harry took down Kravos as a werewolf, so to speak, in an effort to protect Susan, and Susan came dressed to the ball as Little Red Riding Hood. And I really like that, because up until this point, I'd kind of never considered any good reason for... Susan came dressed up as Little Red Riding Hood, and I never really cared for why the reason was, because... You know, who the fuck cares? It was just a costume,
being
right?
mad about her costume.
Well, she wore glasses. That's stupid. Little Riding Hood doesn't wear glasses, and neither does Susan.
And in protest, Jessica left hers at work for 2 days and just went around blind.
It was rough.
Thump.
Mm-hmm.
I have the dent in the car to prove it.
Anyways. So, I thought it was very interesting that, yeah, Harry does actually take turning into a werewolf to defeat Kravos. And we spoke about it, for a bit in the last episode about, that whole moment. But I thought it was, it actually does tie it in a lot better now why Susan went in her Little Red Riding Hood costume. And, because Harry turned into the big bad wolf in the end. We didn't eat Susan, he ate...
The bad guy all up.
Yeah, Kravos.
Right.
So, big props to Matt. To directly quote him here, he says, "I like the parallels here. Originally, Susan was dressed as Little Red Riding Hood, and Leah threatened that the big bad wolf was going to eat her all up. And now Kravos is covered in red from the blood symbols he carved into himself, and Harry turns into a wolf to eat him all up."
Dun, dun, dun.
So yes, it was nice.
There you go.
Susan wore this
there.
Little Red Riding Hood costume, and Leah threatened that the big bad wolf would come and get her. And a big bad wolf did show up. But it was Harry, and he was protecting her, and it's all this do. So yeah, it's good parallels. I like it, Matt. I like it a lot.
Very nice, very nice.
Yes.
Anyways, back to the past, future.
Back to the past.
Back to the past.
Back to the past.
Back to chapter
Come hang out in
38.
our Discord. All kinds of interesting insights and revelations and insults.
Yeah, you'll find a link to that on our website, McAnallys.ca.
Yeah. So we left off at the end of the last chapter with Bianca's last word of fire. As in, shoot, not push.
Harry's normal deal.
Yeah. So, so we start off this chapter with him flinging up his shield and just holding off. Did they say, what do we got, half a dozen? A dozen mercenaries? I'm not sure if it's specified.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah, but several people, regardless. It's not just like 2 guys. There's a bunch of them.
It was half dozen.
Was a half dozen with like machine guns or whatever. And Harry just stands there with his shield up and...
1 dozen vampires, half a dozen armed men.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
There you go. So yeah, I don't know about y'all. I don't think I would fare that well against half a dozen machine guns. Just boom.
Right.
Harry does just fine.
Yeah, well, and he not only does the shield work really well, but the fact is that his magic screws up the mechanisms of the guns, which is,
And some of the guns backfire or just quit or, yeah.
This guy's oozing magic right now.
Yeah.
I will say, though, before we get too deep into this chapter, what do you think is the most iconic visual from this book for you? Because when you think of Stormfront, I would imagine for most people it will be, the lake house. Or maybe the demon toad or something. But, when you think of full moon, most people are going to have Marcone's property, I think.
Yeah.
Or just, the moon in general
Most
or
of the
something,
climactic
the forest,
scenes
whatever, right?
or what's... Yeah.
And obviously, if you get something like, changes, it's very easy to be like, okay, shit needs to, obviously, But I was like, but for this one, for me, honestly, like, I just think of that, like, just Harry and Justine ascending that staircase from, a mansion that's already been partially burnt down and is, got so many bodies in the basement. And for me, anyways, I just imagine this, like a typical, like, narrow basement, and you're just, like, looking up at the light coming, and you're just like, okay.
That
So there we go.
part, yeah. Not so much the same way, I don't think, as you've described. Definitely the party, the pyro fuego. That
was, I think, the one I was going to say,
because that's the big first where he's just like, now this is coming, right? He's got to get out of this and save the day and do whatever. So yeah, this one, like the overall, but not the same way. I don't know, maybe my mind glosses over it a lot. I don't have strict pictures of Harry and Ducky boxers. I don't know if I just couldn't do it
I know,
quite
for me,
justice.
it's like a cartoon character. I imagine Harry in one outfit always. Even when Butcher's like, he's naked, he's in Ducky boxers, he's in purple sweatpants. I'm just always Harry in a duster.
Yeah, it's very hard to get away from that, right? Exactly.
See, it's kind of between the party being an inferno, that moment there, and near the end of this chapter where the imagery of all of the ghosts coming through the floor, like, it just reminds me of, like, the big Ghostbusters moment, like,
Yes.
where the
Yeah, everything just all...
it's going crazy.
Well, yeah.
I think for me, typically, like, the things that makes me most hyped, I guess, when you, like, I like to watch trailers a lot. Like, I'll just rewatch trailers over and over and over again, because I get so hyped by just, like, like, the, holy shit, oh my god, like, yeah, like, go back and remember before you ever got to see the movie, like, I watch, like, like, the trailers for, like, like, the 7th and 8th Harry Potter movie, or for, like, a couple Marvel movies, or, like, my favorite movie, The Martian, right? Because it's just like, oh shit, like, these horrible, terrible odds, and you're like, the whole world stacked against you, or whatever like that, right?
And they give you such, heroic, inspiring music.
Yeah, and, like, sometimes there's a narrator who's just building it the hell up, or whatever like that, right? And, like, for me, like, it's that same thing, like, when you got, like, Harry Dresden, like, just, like, ascending the basement, or whatever like that, and he's, like, for all intents and purposes, all alone. He's got Justine, but, like,
Yeah, but
there was never more damsel in
down at the
distress.
bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, she's really not there to aid him. He's still trying to protect her. She doesn't come up with him, so.
But anyways, yeah, like, it's always just
him.
moments like that where I'm just like, dude's gonna die today. And obviously he doesn't, but one day he will, right? Definitely will.
But not in the books.
I think book
for the first
23.
17 months.
Book 23. How hilarious would it be, though, if he does keep Harry alive at the end of all of this, and then, like I don't know, Jim Butcher's, like, 94 and on his deathbed, and he releases one last short story, it's just Harry died. Just totally destroys everything.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious.
Not even, like, died in his sleep, but just is like, and, I don't know, hit by a truck walking in Max.
Oh, rude.
A hearse gets him.
Harry would live for, like, the irony or the poetic justice of it, or, whatever.
Just when I got
appropriate
my
there.
happily ever after, dead.
Right?
So the security men end up getting freaked out because of this shield and
Yeah.
and all their machinery, their guns dying. So they peace out.
He does have a pretty good line here, He's like, I don't blame them. If all I had was a gun and it had just been that useless, I would run too. And again, useless against a guy. Not even like he had anything big or not even like, he had his cool duster to, like, fling up around him and, like, bounce spells off of her. And you know what I mean? Like,
He doesn't have even. Oh yeah, he does have a staff now. Yeah, he did. Pick
he's
it up,
got a
yeah.
staff and his
Never mind.
rod. But yeah, exactly right. It's just, like, even that, you could, our brains could be like some technologically, like his coat's made of Kevlar or something, but it's like, yeah, no, there's nothing to.
This guy in a box.
But he's just standing there and bullets are just bouncing off. It's like, okay.
And then as you're scrambling to get away from him, he's just like kicking the bullets aside with his foot. Like,
Yeah, his bare feet just.
Yeah.
Ting, 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 ting.
It's a nice effect there. Yeah.
I think if I was, a hired gun who had no idea about the supernatural, which is, what we infer from this, you essentially just think you went up against Superman, because who else, doesn't take bullets, right?
Yeah,
Like,
pretty much. Exactly.
because even, like,
You're
even
right.
Deadpool, I think, would be less scary, or, like, Kick-Ass or Deadpool, who, like, take the bullets, but then just kind of heal instantly
Yeah,
around it,
he
or
doesn't-
Kick-Ass, who just doesn't feel it and can keep going.
Yeah.
Either of those, I think, would be a little bit easier for my brain to process
But
as
you
well,
would still,
anyways,
yeah,
right? Like,
see
okay,
him
we've got
getting
that
shot
aim,
up or
like, he's still
something.
bleeding. But yeah,
Just
like,
none of them fatal. But yeah, exactly. But
even that you could kind of explain away, like,
Well, that's what I mean,
Yeah, we
right?
just, like,
Yeah.
okay, we didn't hit him very well with
like
something like
obviously,
that,
I can
right?
see. I guess they're not fatal yet,
Right,
but I hit him. Yeah.
the fullest shield thing is, like, if I was just some hired gun who didn't know about the supernatural, I'd be like, yeah, no, peace.
Like, okay, I'm out of here. So yeah, so he tries to do all this, let us out, no one will get hurt. And she's like, what about Kyle and Kelly? Which is so dumb, because she's like, they would have died soon anyways. I'm like, then really, what do you give a shit about? You already know, like, you basically, you're like, Kelly was already kind of nutty, and, you know, they don't transition well all the time, and they probably would have died anyways. And I'm like, then that's really, really low bargaining chips there, Bianca. Why are you making them pay for that?
Extra funny, too, because we'll meet future vampire twins who are, like, born vampires, right? And that one makes a bit more sense, but it makes hilarious to me that the Red is going up to, like, pairs of twins and being like, you guys do everything together, right? You both want to be vampires, you know? Or, like, which one did it first and, like, went to his twin is like, you gotta do this with me, we do everything together, you know? Like, because, like, changing them is a lot different than being born one, right? So it's especially funny to me that, like, yeah, it's like, who's walking up to, like, twins and lovers and, like, these couples and groups of people being like, you do it together, you do everything together, yeah.
Right. I wish this date would last forever. Well.
Come on, all the twins are doing it.
Go ahead, blow out the candles, dear.
Gross.
Yeah. Yeah, he tries to give, he's like, last chance, Bianca. And she's like, oh, and if I say no, and he just, right, he's done. Just right then, he doesn't try, he just lances another spell at her, just flings some fire. Sadly, it's not very effective, because she whips out a spell of her own.
Right, she uses her own counterspell to deflect, and she admits that her lessons with Mavra were quite successful, so this confirms that she did get her knowledge from the old hag.
Yeah. So that actually brings him up a moment, because he's like, I knew she knew, like, some little, like, parlor tricks or something, but he's like, that was some serious mojo, and I don't know if, you know, like, he's like, there's people that are, like, on the, you know, wizard enough to be on the council, but couldn't have countered my spell coming at him like that, right? So he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, she's kind of dangerous.
A little bit more than I was counting on, but...
And Harry's in a very peculiar situation right now, too, because, like, we've seen only 3 books in, but he's mentioned, too, he's like, you use too much magic, and, like, it's not like an infinite resource. Like, you gotta wait to, like, rest and get it all back and stuff like that, like any other sort of resource, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he did just, like, get a big surge from Kravos, and he's got this adrenaline going on, too, so it's, like, it's kind of hard to know, like, just how much of Harry is... What is his power supply really at right now? Like, what is he working with, you know?
Mm-hmm. Because he himself is beaten and tired and poisoned
tortured and beaten.
And I think what we've seen mostly from him is very much like that, like the same way, you know? It's like, well, if you eat a good breakfast, you're fueled for the day, and, you know, as that fuel as you know, move around and do stuff and burn it off. Well, you gotta have some lunch, you gotta have some dinner, you gotta get some sleep, right? And so magic is just always seems very much in line with that, right? That partially just however your state of body and mind is, and then whatever else you're, you know, again, like using magic is like if you were running around instead of just walking, right? You're using that much more at a time or whatever, right?
Right, and Bianca hasn't had nearly as much of the expenditure that Dresden has up to this point. Like, she's pretty much just had everybody else do the dirty work for her up to this point.
She pretty much was just,
this is the first time we've seen her use magic, definitely, you know? From up until this point, all the other magic we've kind of been assuming was either Kravos or Mavra, right? This is the first time we would confirm Bianca, so for all we know, she's at 100% full level.
Well, yeah, reserves. She pretty much was just having her party, and then at most she would have scrambled around to get out of the courtyard when he started blowing things up and burning things down. Then, grab a few people and hustle inside, but again, right, her lackeys probably mostly would, you know, come on, Mr. President, and, you know, shuffled her off indoors, so.
Well, and she throws another wrench in, so it's not just like the magic potential that she has to kick his ass. She calls on Don Paulo Ortega of the Red Court to intervene, and he lets on that he has been monitoring this whole situation, is basically a witness for Bianca that he has been violating the Accords, and that he's broken laws of hospitality, and she hasn't done anything in the wrong.
Yeah. I know, this is big, because it kind of, like you say, draws him up short for a second when she counters that, and he doesn't just, and then she, was like to throw something else into the pot, and he's like, oh, nice to meet you, Don.
Well, but it's all, like, odds against him.
They are, but again, like, I love, you know, Harry's composure in this, right? You know, as most of the rest of us who are always, like, you know, 5 minutes later or 5 days later with the perfect comeback, you know, Harry just thinks on his feet. But he's like, hey, Don, I'd like to lodge a complaint. And he's like, well, I bet you would, but I'm not really here for your side. You're the one that broke all the rules. And he's like, whatever. She broke the spirit of every one of them. He's like, but And in the accords that were drawn up between my kind and your kind, so between mortals, wizards, whichever line, and
All the
vamps
signatories
and-
of the Accords.
yeah, because he's like my kind and your kind and stuff like that. It's like that had no basis, because there was too many sides, I'm sure, too many interpretations, so the spirit meant nothing, and everyone agreed just to adhere to the letter. And by that, even as unbelievable as it is, even though we know, we can see, in the face of everything that Bianca has done, technically, she ain't broken nothing, and Harry has done all the breaking the rules and stepping over boundaries and slapping.
So what he calls it is cowboy justice, and I really thought that was a great way to label his behavior, because that's exactly what the foundation of his behavior is
especially
Vigilante, yeah.
Yeah, especially since half the time he's got his cowboy boots and his jeans and his duster.
No hats.
No hats. But the cowboy justice.
It should be mentioned though here, I love Paolo. He's a great character, and he had an amazing
Why
entrance.
don't you just marry him then?
If I could, I would. What's the chick? Anastasia, his wife.
No, not Anastasia.
Oh yeah, that's Lucio. Ariana.
Ariana.
She's another good one, but Anyways, Paolo has a great entrance to this whole thing, where a vampire just swings open a door and he's just there, and he's like, "Hey, Dresden," and
Standing there for stylish king.
But yeah, as we just said, he's here to be a witness for the Reds and stuff like that, and he's a high level. We spoke. I mean, it was a while ago, maybe 5 or 10 episodes ago. We spoke about what a fucking
a baroness. What a level?
Yeah, how Bianca's job is. It's up there. Girl has ascended to extreme heights. But Paolo's even higher than that. He is really extremely high up there when it comes to the, power structure of the Red Court vampires, right? So I love that, he's just like, "Hey, what's up? Been watching this shit. I'll see you a couple more times in the future to fuck shit up." But anyways, I just like him a lot. And I liked his entrance. He got a good entrance for a reoccurring character.
Decent. Yeah.
Well, he's got him by intellectual clauses, is what he's done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Basically. So, So they're like, sorry, doesn't matter. You're still the one that's going to come out with the short end of the stick on all of this. And,
Right, yeah. So Bianca basically says, sorry, he's the witness to you starting a war, is the short and tall of it. And Harry's like,
it's like, that's bullshit. And they're like, yeah, but you know what? It's too bad.
Not the way we're going to swing it.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's right. They don't
Line
even
and
have to.
sinker.
They're like,
Gotcha, bitch.
Which, is exactly what's been going on here. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Ortega really lends it up here quite well as all of Harry's crimes.
And this has happened a lot
Poor
for
Bianca,
Harry.
he walks into it a lot.
He got off at 16. Probably a few times, but he got off of his death sentence at 16 on a technicality.
This is why you don't marry your foster siblings. Don't date your foster siblings, okay?
So he escaped the death sentence as a teenager on a technicality. When we see him in Stormfront, there's a few times that comes up, especially
Doom of
with
Damocles.
Yeah, well, Morgan and stuff like that was like, you were summoning fairies, and that breaks the fourth. He's like, it was a dewdrop fairy. They didn't have to take the deal. I just wanted. He's like, well, that's a technicality. And he's like, yeah, but
Duh.
one I intend to hide wildly behind. And then he gets off in that one on a technicality or something again. When there's a couple I know when he's facing Dresden, because I don't know if the first one is...
He's facing Morgan?
When Morgan is facing Dresden, because I know the first one is about Toot, and I feel like it comes up later on, or maybe just later in that conversation or something like that, where again he's like, that's a technicality of
Yeah,
pair
he's like, you've been asking around about...
Yeah, but anyways,
Dark
and then,
Wizard
so now here, Dresden keeps wiggling
You just
out.
started a war on a technicality.
So he keeps wiggling out of things with Leah on, as much of a technicality as he can. I was like, well, I stated that there were never, you can't, well, I'm not,
Even that
really,
whole werewolf thing,
didn't.
whether or not being killed by it, he's like, is this a technicality? When we put on the belt and stuff like that, he's like, how far and close, we debated about, when does it become killing with magic, when he's got the belt on and stuff like that, right?
Yes, yeah,
And Harry
yeah.
even said, I think it was in that book, or was it the beginning of this one when he's reflecting back on it, one or the other, and he's just like, You know.
Super lives in this gray area.
Oh,
Well,
Harry.
now it's about to bite him in the ass because now all the technicalities that he's been wiggling around to, hide wildly behind and get out of shit. Now the coin is flipped or whatever, and now this technicality is coming to bite him in the ass, and he's on the losing end. Technically, we didn't do anything wrong. So even though we set all this up and tried to turn your girlfriend and killed a whole bunch of innocent people and took the sword and made you a gravestone and da-da-da-da-da, technically, we were all perfectly within our rights and boundaries to do that.
It's hilarious when you list that off. Yeah, it's like, yeah, they were, right?
Yeah, right, pretty much, right?
And even as a reader who's on
was all
Dresden's side, you can still see all the times when, like, they were, you know, within their rights. Like, you do, like, you can't...
Stuck his toe over the line.
like, you can't help but admit, like, and he says, like, it's, like, one of the most devastating lines where he's, like, he died doing the right thing, and like, Harry says at the end of that chapter, whatever it is, and he's like, fuck, like, I'm gonna do the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, that's one of the moments where you're just like, ugh, because here we go, right?
Yeah.
But even still, like, you read this and it's like, like, as much as he's backed into that corner, it's a technicality, you can still be like, yeah, that was Harry's fault.
Yeah.
Next time, don't go to a party you say you're not gonna go to, because they're gonna fucking screw you over. Like,
I'm not going. Surprise! Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do everything in your power to antagonize while you're at that party.
and, like,
Nice costume.
it comes up so soon in Summer Night, too, when he's like, again, like, we'll get there in a minute, but yeah, he's just like, I'm not gonna make any deals with fairies, and then instantly the fairy's like, I'm gonna make a deal. He's like, okay, but I can refuse whatever deal I want to. And she's like, you can refuse whatever deal you want to. And she's like, okay, here's the first deal. He's like, okay, I'll do it, because, like, what else am I gonna do? He's like, refuse the first. Like, what do you mean? He's like acting, he's like, she's only ever gonna offer me this or a war crime. It's like, no, you don't know that. Just say no for the rest of your life. Like, you don't know what's coming. Like,
just say no, Harry.
I'm just saying, like,
you lived through that administration.
Imagine he turned down every deal she ever came at him with until he's, like, on his deathbed. At that point, sure, just do it then. Who cares? You're gonna die tomorrow. Like,
only not, because she'd ferry up some way to
still,
keep
though.
from dying.
When you're, like, 800 years
that's what
old.
he'd be doing. See, he'd think, well, it's fine. I'm gonna, like, die tomorrow. And then that would be the loophole where she just, stasis his life forever, and now he's stuck doing. Now he's like stuck at doing it.
But to be fair enough, like, yeah, how bad is it then? You'd, like, make her wait 400 years, and then finally it's like, okay, fine, who cares if I start an apocalypse doing her bidding? I'm gonna be dead as soon as I do the third task. I'd speedrun it then. Like, give me all three right now.
Matt would be like, I don't think so. That's what you want? No. But yes. So yeah, so basically...
Cowboy Justice.
So he goes to Ortega, blah, 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 blah. If there's a point here, get to it kind of a thing. And he's like, oh, no, I don't have a point. I'm just here as a witness. I'm not here to make deals or take sides. I'm just...
And then Bianca's like, but since you're asking.
Yeah, well, that's Bianca. Ortega's like, well, that's it. I'm just know you're being watched. We're taking this all down. We're making notes.
It's not even one sentence later that Bianca's literally like,
I know, it's like... Well, yeah, Bianca's here to make a deal.
I know, but it's still funny that Ortega's like all like aloof, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just watching. And Bianca's like, yeah, this is exactly why he's here. You're fucked. And it's like, all right, way to take out the mystery from it all. One sentence later.
I guess.
Not gonna make him sweat.
I suppose. I just always take it.
Yeah, no, he suffered enough. Let's just get to the point now.
Yeah. But
although,
yes,
like, you gotta imagine, like, if I was Harry, I'd be, like, on my feet swaying right now in my ducky boxers, right? I would be like Bianca too. I'd be like, I don't think he's gonna get to the point if we don't tell him. I was like, maybe we should just tell him what's up.
Did he just shit himself? We better
He's
say.
about to fall back down these stairs, and I've got this whole villain speech I've been practicing for weeks.
Like, hello, we're on a timeline.
Yeah, no shit.
You already screwed up my speeches tonight.
Like, I have been timing his entrance into this hall for, like, a year now, but...
Yeah. So basically, she cuts to the chase here, and she's like, yeah, a witness who will go back and tell everybody all the bullshit you just done, and that'll mean war, open war between the council and the vampires. And he's like, ooh, that's not good. That's like a big deal. Not just war in Chicago, not just a tiff between Harry and Bianca, or Harry and a bunch of vampires in Chicago. No, they're talking the Red Court against the White Council. And Harry's like, well, fuck that just a little bit more.
Well, and one thing he throws out there is that this is, like, not in living memory, and some wizards live a damn long time.
Yes,
and
it's been like a
obviously-
millennia since they had a big old war. They made these peace talks, treaties, accords, and things have been,
So like, we're gonna hear, as the series progresses, some of these ginormous battles that exist in real history. we will see like future like things come up in the books of Jim Butcher accrediting real historical events to supernatural causes and reasons and effects and blah blah blah.
As any good
author does, you
author
know,
or
steal
whatever.
it all
You
and do
know,
it for
Buffy did a
yourself,
lot
right?
of that too.
Yeah, so it's just like it's one of these things where it's like it's a bit not necessarily foreshadowing, but it is a little bit just like to understand the scope of just like listen. Like, 21st century, we don't get a lot of...
What, wars? Go ahead and say it. We don't get a lot of wars in the city.
World War ones. Yes. World War III is coming.
There's only one World War I. You are correct.
We've got a lot of wars in this world. That is absolutely true in the 21st
But there will
century.
only ever be the first. But yes, yeah. Although, aside to that, but I just gonna say I do like kind of actually when history does take on like a lot more fun and is a lot more interesting if you start assigning like supernatural causes and reasons and events to them. So this is, yes, so not in the millennia, and now all of this actions, reactions, whatever that has occurred could end up in a big open war between all of them, and it's not cool. And
That's
Dresden
bad.
is like, well, son of a bitch. That's not good.
So he agrees to listen.
So
to
he agrees to
Bianca's
listen.
deal.
Yeah.
That is the whole point of the last 40 minutes
And
of
she's
speaking.
so good. So, yeah, she'll forgive his excessive bad taste over the last few days. And, you know, but for the deaths, it's not unworkable. And I'll even forgive you the deaths, because, you know, they were kind of losers and going batty. And we're probably going to pop off anyways soon. And, you know, and he's like, oh, gee, that'll swallow you, right? And she's like, oh, it gets better. You can even take, you know, your buddy's your white whore's girlfriend or whatever. Or the white bastard's whore. He's not calling Thomas the whore, she's calling Justine. She can take all your doodads and gizmos and free of future malice, everything's a-okay. And he's like, wow, how could I possibly say no, right? Like, you just know, you know, whatever's coming, right? And she's like, all this for the low, low price of leaving Susan here. And he's like, let me think. And she's like, well, do you want to accept my bargain, my compromise? And he's just like, I love her. She's like, what? Sorry, I didn't quite hear you. He's like, I love her. She's like, what? She's half-turned. Like, you're crazy. Who cares? She's already mine. It's like, no. And I have to admit, this is another one of those, you know, she's like, she's going to be, you know, she's going to turn all the way. Like, it won't be long. And he's like, maybe not. Get your hands off my girlfriend. You're just like,
This is like, you know, one of those classic moments between, like, you know, Harry and Voldemort. Like, you know what's the difference between us? You are incapable of love. You're never going to understand why I'm going to wake up every morning and fight you, because you just do not legitimately understand the concept of love at all. Which is, you know, actual Voldemort lore, right? Like, he was conceived because of a love potion, so Voldemort can't feel love. But, in this case, you know, Bianca, bad guy, vampire, it's just like, you don't get it?
yeah.
It's just like, she's not a vampire to me, she's my girlfriend. That's that.
Yeah, and she's like, you'd flirt with chaos and destruction with war for the sake of this one wounded soul. And he's basically like, I can't think of a better reason. You know? Basically, for the sake of one soul, for one life, for one loved one. Yeah.
The way I see it, there's nothing else worth fighting a war for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, you know, as heroic, romantic, awe-inspiring, whatever you want to call it, can you really make that call for the entire White Council? I don't think all those other wizards are going to be very happy about this.
Right.
It's just
You
like he's
involved us for what?
he's speaking like, you know, a king or like the Merlin, and he's just like, I'd do anything for her. And it's like, it's great when
naked wizard and some used boxers.
when you're Harry Potter, when you're Arthur Pendragon, when you're maybe not Katniss Everdeen because she wasn't the head of the organization
Yeah.
anyways, but still, like when you are
just built her up as a figurehead, yeah.
when you are the top of your thing, it's one thing to declare war for the love of your life, but people like Harry or even Katniss who are on the bottom, it's like I mean, even in the Hunger Games too, like
Well, I was gonna say, she at least was elevated. She was the face of the revolution and all of that,
what did they?
right?
What was
She
it?
did-
District 13.
They were,
right?
She was.
She was 13 or she was 12?
Oh, she was 12, yes, right. 13 was the secret.
13 was the secret. So District 13 is the one who was in charge, and they had like their president or king or whatever the fuck they called it. President, I think?
No, she wasn't a president because it was President Snow.
Yeah.
She was something or other.
Right.
Director? I don't know. Whatever the hell she was, though. She essentially, like, said as much, you know? Katniss is like, we gotta save him, we gotta do this. And they're like, yeah, that actually doesn't fucking matter to the war. Like, that has nothing to goddamn do with the war. Like, no one cares that you're in love, right? And so that's exactly what people would be saying to Harry, were they here. They'd be like, you know what, that really sucks for you, but we're actually not going to go to war just because you fucked up your girlfriend.
And it's not, and the White Council is going to consider her a lost cause because she's been infected by a vampire.
True.
So she's not even
human anymore.
Yeah, she's just a
fully lost at the dark
vampire.
side as far
Who
as they're
cares?
concerned.
He gave up everything for a vampire.
Yeah.
Which they're going to think is the stupidest thing ever.
Yes, exactly. And I want to also throw in there too, fuck you, Thomas, this is actually still all your fault. Let's not forget that. But anyways, that's just another thing though. Like, yeah, they're not here to speak into his ear right now. He is kind of calling all the shots, but it should be reminded that despite the fact that he is the titular character, he's actually not in charge of shit. And actually shouldn't be the one to be able to make these calls, right? Which is, I mean, part of the reason why you'll see in future books why the White Council is so on his ass and like, you brought us to war. And actually, I don't even think they know why it happened, because he doesn't tell anyone about Susan. So they don't even know.
Yeah, because he files a report.
Oh, he does tell them what exactly happened with Susan?
Yeah,
he has to say in the next book.
Yeah, we don't.
That he read the report.
Oh, okay.
Because I was gonna say Harry does his own thing and makes his own choices out there a lot in the field, but he does still sort of toe the line in following protocol. He always sends in his like reports and what when shit. Basically, that's not just tiny shit. He's made references, I'm sure, in the last book.
He did it in Stormfront, at least. I don't know about
exactly. Whereas, like, he does file his report on what all this went. Like, wait, what the fuck? Why are you running around blasting wads where everyone could see you? Well, there was a reason. This is my
There's a demon toad and a werewolf.
Yeah, I did the best I could. I didn't send the toad. I was just defending myself. So yeah, but yes, he does. Yeah, he does explain all that about going in to save Susan and
Still though, anyways, point is that like. Obviously, good guy, he has to say no, he has to fight for her, but it is a little bit funny to think, like, you're not...
Well, and this is what's setting it up a lot for the next book, because, basically the council's gonna go, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah.
You don't speak for us, but yet you spoke for us.
And here we are, stuck with your mess,
Yeah, the vampires are like, we don't care, you let this little shit out there to say stuff.
And we said this too, we said, like, the fact that Bianca holds him, like, this isn't even just Bianca picking on a smaller guy. She fully believes that he is at the power level of one of the big guns. Like, as far as Bianca's concerned, he does speak for the White Council. Like, he's the one she's afraid of.
Yeah, well, yes.
And
I think they know sort of
she knows he doesn't have any political standing there, but I still think, like, it's one of those things where, like, Marcone will say as much soon. I don't think it's much of a spoiler to say, like, he's like, Dresden is like, I'm afraid of that guy. Like, I want to keep an eye on Dresden, It's not necessarily just because Dresden is on our doorstep in Chicago. People are meeting Dresden and they're like, this is somebody, like, nobody knows where he's gonna go. And so everybody's worried. The good guys are worried, the bad guys are worried. Like, we see this as the books grow and grow and grow, and he makes more and more decisions, and sometimes he's making, well, all the time, we've said just now, like, he lives in the gray zone, which makes it very hard for everyone in, what's outside of gray? White and black, dark and light? Like, what was
the
the
extremes?
Yeah, like, like, everyone who is very fully good, like Michael and, even Murphy, and, like, she waves a little bit more, but Michael, and as we'll meet, like, Butters and, like, other people who are much more firmly, we are good guys and we only do good guy stuff, to the bad guys where we'll meet, like, other vampires or other fairies or other werewolves or other, I don't know, supernatural creatures, generally speaking. Marcone, for example, who are much more firmly bad guy, right? And everyone's looking at Harry in this gray zone, constantly stepping in and out to other people's sides, and he's constantly in, like, the dead man zone where he's just like, I'm on your team now, I'm on your team now, I'm on your team here, I'm on your team, right? It's very much like, everyone's just like, we don't know what he's gonna wake up tomorrow and be like,
Right.
So it is very much like, it, like, just really extremely shows Bianca, too, to be like, I'm not just, like, forcing some little, like, mouse to make a decision on the entire White Council. She's like, I'm after you specifically because I think you are a
He's a wild
tiger
card.
in sheep's clothing, wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yes,
It makes him completely unpredictable in which way he's going to go because he doesn't actually have that really, really... Well, I can't really say necessarily a moral compass. That's because he is such...
He's very moral, but it's his own morals.
Yeah.
He picks and chooses, though, so I don't even know if you can...
Well, like, again, I know what you're trying to say.
I don't know how to say this. Because
but again,
morals, but they're very...
It's his own moral code that he abides by, but where that falls in the grander scheme of other people, like, exactly, right? He's willing to, work with Marcone for 5 minutes if it means taking out Bianca in the end or something, but then it's, like, right back to, okay, now, again, work with my enemy if it furthers everything else. The ends justify the means a little bit. I was going to say, I guess the other reason is this with Bianca is that she is putting him in that position because she's like knowing, I guess, that he's not, it's not just how she sees his strength against her, but knowing that he's not got the political clout. It's like, even if I can't, your own guys are going to squash you like a bug, because
she's making sure that he fails on all aspects.
they're going to kick your ass for drawing them into this.
Very fake. You don't have winning no matter what.
Yeah. It's like, I know that everyone's, not going to be like, oh, well, of course, Wizard Dresden was totally, they're all going to be like, what the fuck, Harry? And she still gets to go.
Yeah, this isn't one of those situations where it's like, he speaks for all of us, all wizards are together.
They're like, whoa, we never saw this guy before in our lives.
And especially, as has already been outlined for us and will be hammered as we go, the White Council kind of adopts into everyone who has enough power to be a wizard, right? It's not anyone with power, but it's enough who has power. You get to be part of the White Council.
And then they talk about the haves and the have-nots, the little people that have an ink, like Lydia, right? He's like, she had some kind of buzz of power, but
it wasn't enough to be indicted into the council, right? Generally, it's like really small, like one-trick pony sort of things don't get to come into the council.
Yeah.
But further than that, you've got a second level of the wardens, and that is like some serious power mojo. Like you're expected
heavy hitters.
You're expected to uphold the wizard laws, but also
wizard military guys. Usually, you don't want to piss them off.
But like it's more power. It's not like it's not just the people who respect the law. Like I equate it to a bit of just like a regular like mall cop versus like an actual armed forces.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? I was like, I'm not going to go and like try to pick a fight with a Marine. Because he's going to squish me no matter what, Like, obviously, anybody, good enough to be in that position and with that training is both, magically, physically, whatever, they're the brawlers.
They got the stuff. But so, it's just, I'd like to point out, though, that, like, Harry is, like, he's only part of the council kind of because, like, everyone gets to be part of the council if they've got the juice. Like, we don't really make that choice. Like, we do it because they want to control you. And, like, okay, you're part of our council. You actually have no choice. You have to become part of our council. But at the same time, for Harry, most of the council would love nothing more than to squash him. They don't even want him to, like, be a part of the council to watch him. They, like...
He has no voice in the council.
It's not just point, like, like every wizard is a man of their own, but Harry was especially the man no one wanted. Like, nobody wanted him on their team for the most part, Like, obviously enough people did enough to give him the Doom of Damocles and not kill.
Again, this, I think, is where, mankind and ambitions and free will and all that, like, the council isn't, as pure as it was once designed to be or whatever, too, right?
Does she have allergies, or is she just really worked up about this? You're, like, crying, Mom.
Gets a little warm down here sometimes. But, the people in the political positions, like the Merlin and stuff like that, who run the council, who would love to be able to say who can and can't be in and this and that, right? So I'm like, I think, again, as it becomes more of a governing body than a... as population grows and different people from all walks are coming in, that's, again, sort of, I think, the balance of the council between, are they there to actually, restrict and judge and govern, or are they just supposed to have a loose, like, hey, this is kind of how we're going to temper our powers so people don't go about just abusing everything and be like the other supernatural monsters and...
Well, I think, the White Council, first and foremost, is to create a protection between humanity and supernatural. That was, like, their number one. They're like, there's nobody sticking up for the humans, but we all agree that humans can't know to stick up for themselves.
Okay, so
that's
then
not
once
fair,
the Accords
so
were
we've
in
got
place,
to...
then it was like, what do we do now? No, I guess we'll just start...
Well, it's not like they didn't already have a government going already between themselves, but their whole original founding reason was like, it's not fair that no one is on the human side because they don't get to know. They don't get to be a signatory or like before the Accords were created. It was just a regular thing. Like humans don't get to know, or we go back into the Dark Ages where they hunt witches and kill off the whole Black Court, and that's bad for you and it's bad for us. Like we
so
don't
they
want...
afforded some protection.
So yeah, it was like they afforded some protection. That was their main thing. It's like we are team human, okay? Wizards are team human. They can't get to know we're team human. Blah blah blah. But obviously, as it's come, they wouldn't have created... the 7 laws are not about protecting humans entirely. It's protecting wizards from themselves.
Well, it's some regulatory use of power.
Which makes sense, but my point is that, like, they didn't just, like... I'm saying all of this just to say, like, of all the guys, Harry is just not their favorite to begin with. Any random schmuck, like, we'll meet a guy, Carlos Ramirez, in the future, right? And he's just some random schmuck on the same level as Harry, more or less, of, like, magically speaking, and...
You say that to his face.
Indicted into the White Council, becomes a warden, blah, blah, blah. And, like, if he were the one in this position right now who accidentally started a war, like, they'd still be like, what the fuck, you stupid fuck? Who the fuck are you to start a war with us? But Harry is, like, they really specifically don't like Harry to begin with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, that's all I'm saying is, like, it's just an extra, like, Bianca measures him up as somebody to be afraid of, and she's fully pinpointed this is the guy exactly who can crumble everything and start this war and blah, 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 blah. It's just a lot of words to say, like...
Yeah, I was going to say, it took you an awful long time to say that.
She's very, like... She's good at revenge. I don't know what I was
She's very
going
well
with.
planned out. She has every
she just, like, you know...
She has every avenue cornered.
Harry himself has lined him up to be the perfect
Patsy.
enemy of my... You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like, you know? Bianca should kiss Harry for everything he's done for her on behalf of her revenge.
Yeah, except for about the next 10 minutes.
Well, I mean, you know...
It was glorious while it lasted. It was very short-lived for Bianca.
Anyways, yes. Harry loves
get away
her.
from my girlfriend.
Yeah, Bianca loses control over that statement. Like, she loses her
insane.
flesh mask. She commands everyone to kill Dresden at this point and just hurtles a spell of darkness at him.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he, uses that to his advantage and kills other vampires with it by deflecting it. Good on him.
Yeah, I was gonna always love when that word, he doesn't just, like, counter it and, like, fizzle it or something. He actually manages to just, like, throw it in someone else's face and make it...
That way. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so all of a sudden there's some mad, wild running of vampires coming at him and him trying to dodge and throwing some magic back and forth, and he flings out some fire again and manages to sort of make a momentary barrier between this kind of wall of fire. Didn't really take anybody out with it, he just kind of runs, like, kind of carves the floor, but at the same time it gives him, like, this little moat of... Right? So he literally, falls back a step and tries to take a moment to assess and is like, what the ever-loving fuck? There's more of them. They're, have more stamina or whatever, they're not as beaten and...
And his moat doesn't do a lot because there's vampires in the ceiling.
Well, yes, he did. Yeah, I took out a couple of those ones first for the... Good thing they can't, control their drooling or that guy totally would have had a drop on him. But yeah, basically, once he, flicks them off the ceiling and swats them away and stuff like that, he's got a brief, and yeah, he's like, well, how the fuck do I get out of this now? Like, I've only got so much, I've been throwing some of it around just to get me this far, and just basically to, keep him on his feet, like, that's the other thing, like, he was so far gone, between the poisoning, the beating, and the whole bit, that literally, I think half of that magical, rush he got was literally just... keeping him ambulatory, let alone then actually throwing magic around on top of that, right?
Well, fortunately, like, during all this fighting, he does get this really great idea. He creates a circle around himself, and he contacts all of Bianca's dead victims and imbues them with power.
Yeah.
Just floods them with it.
He's lucky that way, as he's always, depressed and thinking the worst and how he's gonna die here in this house with all these other dead people. Hundreds and dozens and thousands of dead people that are all right here in this house where I am, where I'm about to die and become one of them. All these dead people. Hey, wait a sec.
So that's one of the sad things about this home is that, for the most part, Bianca's not taking, strong people off the street. She's especially looking for the weak and the alone and the already
prey,
downtrodden prey,
Very
sort
tragic.
of. Right? It's very tragic.
The ones no one will miss, no one
Right.
will look for very much. Yeah.
So you've got these, all the prime makings of a tortured soul who will become a ghost and can't move on, but they're just so weak. They don't have this power of their own. They can't become a haunting or a
Poltergeist or whatever,
poltergeist or
yeah.
anything like that, right? So you've got this, essentially, dormant, ghost, essentially, that are just piling up and piling up and piling up.
For years, because wasn't it, like, I think the first book says that she had been in that location since the 20s?
Yeah.
Yeah, they thought that Capone had built it for one of
Right.
his mistresses or something. So this particular house, this
that's-
mansion, the Velvet Room,
Yeah,
whatever.
so 80-ish years
Yeah,
at this point
yeah.
of vampire victims. And on top of that, I mean, like, assuming her regular business was just already, a vampire hotspot. We know the last year has been, like, extreme ramp up. So it's like, even if you're saying, let's say, like, they're kill, like, one a week.
Again, she's running a brothel and stuff like that. And again, dating back to those days, I'm like, I'm sure between, drugs and lack of protection, and she's had all kinds of other misfortunate accidents and stuff with her girls.
Even outside of the
clients. I mean,
vampire.
again, she's a respectable madam, so maybe she, on the whole, does a lot to be, you know what I mean? But
they still need to eat. Like,
but I mean, like I say, right, just, I mean, she's basically running a whorehouse with a bunch of prostitutes. So, oops, somebody overdoses, or oops, somebody catches some disease, or oops, some client gets too rough and offs his girl while he's, I'm sure there's got to be some of the, maybe she curbs it as much as possible when possible. But again, like you say, you got to think from starting out when, there wasn't maybe as much,
well, even if they did one person a week to feed on, one person a week for
52 weeks,
80 years.
Yeah.
That's an insane amount of victims, and that's
what
I
I mean.
think
I'm
being
just-
modest.
Well, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It would have been
like the other
that's roughly
victims
50
that weren't
bodies
even
a year for 80 years is whatever.
a lot.
But the last
let's see,
1
5
year,
times 8 is 40.
but
4,000.
but this last year I'm saying was probably probably triple or quadruple numbers a week
As
because
she
how
made
many
more vampires and brought
well, she's
in
making
more
more vampires and she's bringing in more contacts and she herself is
Throwing
getting
parties.
powerhouse and she herself is also, as we've established, been riding this vicious high of hating Dresden every single day. Like she's been, as far as we can assume, basically like top 10 anger every day for 365 days, right? Yeah. And a vampire living at tip-top anger for 365 days is not your
Gotta
friend.
take in a few extra calories.
Yeah, right? So, yeah, like, I just imagine, like, this boy could easily be bringing up, like, 1,000 ghosts at this moment, of just, and...
Lower.
I don't know how to do math. Whatever. Point is...
Yeah, but we already said 8 times 5 is like 40, so you
3,000?
have to have at least like 4,000 or something if you're talking
4,000,
about one a
sure.
week or something.
Point is that you've got this very sad... The fact that there's, 4,000 plus ghosts laying dormant just, waiting for their chance. And now they get it.
That's one hell of a weapon.
One hell of a weapon, which, all intents and purposes, Harry should not be able to do. That seems very Kravos to me, because where the hell did that come from?
But that's what he says. Any other day, any other place, but because Bianca kept fucking with the veil
the
between
veil itself,
world,
Right.
that's why.
So the combination between it.
Jumping in and out of the never here, yeah.
Yes,
That was
because
it, yeah.
he just made it weak and
So he just
wobbly.
used her weapon completely against her.
Back against her now. Thanks,
little-
Bianca. I couldn't have done this without you.
Just a little flip on that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that's what he does. So yeah, he pours all of that pain and suffering and depression and giving upness, and he pours it all down into the ghost.
It's lucky that all these bad guys make their homes their villain hideout as well. 'Cause
Right.
That really helps with the threshold a lot of the time for Harry. It's like...
This is true.
Yeah.
Do vampires have a threshold?
They don't. Vampires don't get one.
Well, it doesn't matter.
No, but that's okay. Nice try. For some of his other ones.
So the dead start rising from the floor and begin to take vengeance on the vampires. The ceiling begins to fall in and attack the spirits.
I want to throw in another thing here, okay? Because it's cool.
Okay.
He's saying he touches them all one by one. So how many? Did you do the math? I saw you on your phone. No, you weren't doing the calculator app.
4,000.
4,000. Fine. I won't have the number then.
Let's just round it up to 5,000, just for a nice number.
Let's just round it to 8 million. Why not? He has the time.
vampires. I mean, ghosts.
And my point is, he touches them one by one. The spell he uses for them is Memoriam, Memoratum, Memortius. And it's just like...
Your Latin's atrocious. Just kidding.
So's Harry's.
Yeah, true.
I'm still in this.
That's right.
Point is that,
Yes.
it's just
Don't worry. Most of us these days has
some of the
Not all
only...
of us could learn Latin when we were growing up.
But yeah.
Maggie.
This is what happens when you get sent to an obsolete school. It doesn't teach you real life knowledge.
I didn't even know.
Absolutely.
Like, really even.
And then went to, Ukrainian church?
Latin is a language.
And
Dead
Latin
as dead can
church?
be. First it killed the Romans. Now it's killing me.
I wish it would.
She's been waiting 20 years to say that.
But, yeah.
They made every child memorize it in school, and she's like, one day this is going to be worth it. First grade, just memorize that.
No, wait. We didn't start Latin until 8th grade. 4,160 if you did one person a week for 80 years. So he's got well over 4,000. So like you say, you could easily 5, 6...
8 million?
Whatever.
8 million?
I don't know if we go quite that high yet. That might be noticeable in 80 years.
So he touches every single one of them.
And remembers them for the first time in maybe 80 years.
Yeah.
Gives them just enough oomph to get that revenge that they've been so wanting.
I sort of get that image of like a nuclear bomb goes off and you see that like that impact zone.
The mushroom cloud?
Yeah.
That's it. I could just see his spell going off like that.
Boom, down into the ground, and then whoosh.
You know that alternative Grave Peril cover where it's just covered in ghosts?
Oh, vaguely.
Faces?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Coming for you, Bianca.
Yeah. So this again would be a very good cinematic moment if done right. It has the potential. Give us that
totally
cartoon, damn it!
reminds
Give us
me
that cartoon.
of the Ghostbusters when their containment unit busts and all the ghosts start flying out of the floor.
Yeah.
That's what this reminds me of, and I get that image. They start pulling everything, like the ceiling starts falling in, and they keep pulling down the vampires with them.
Yes. And I actually thought of that. So just recently on the Discord, they posted like a picture, and it's got like 25 movies in it, and you can pick out all. And I have to admit, when first
You're dating us.
yeah. Do they care? As long as it comes out.
I know.
It's because you tried to squeeze. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Actually, we're really close to when we're not that far
We're not
off
that
right
far
now.
off from where we can't pretend.
Usually it's that 6
made
weeks.
it like 7 weeks in advance or something. But anyways, point being is the one, I think most of you looked at it, so whatever, The Shining, and it's like chopped in the door. But when I first looked at that on my phone, I just saw like a green, because it's like the background through the hole. And I literally saw that and I was like, oh, Ghostbusters, that's totally like Slimer just went through that door. And then when I like zoomed in and looked, I was like, oh no, that's the axe chopped through the door and that's just the wall on the other side. But it totally, at first glance on my phone, I was like, well, Ghostbusters right there. Slimer just slimed it.
Here's your you didn't really need to know this fact about The Shining. So Jack Nicholson used to work as a volunteer firefighter. Originally that door was a prop door, but he took it down so fast and so easily they replaced the door with a real door to make the scene actually look real, because he was so efficient at busting through the door.
I did not know that. I did not
took it
know
out
he
in
was a
one big
volunteer.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know. If you were ever in a fire, Jack Nicholson totally would have saved your life.
Exactly. If he wasn't trying to kill you with the axe at the time.
If he wasn't trying to kill you at the time.
But how will Liam Neeson really stand up if I get kidnapped and he's my father?
I guess we'll never know.
Shoot.
Yeah.
So also, on top of the cinematic moment of the ghost coming up, they're screaming their names and they're screaming their murderers' names, their loved ones. That is for me the most, like, imagine you're in a theater and that's just like,
right.
that would be haunting.
Right. I didn't even think about that.
Right.
The auditory effect that
Yeah,
would.
like,
I am Rachel.
yeah.
Maybe Paula. I've been dead a while. I'm not sure.
Maybe it was her middle name.
Maybe. Rachel Paula.
I'm sure Bianca's had to forge so many death certificates at this point. And it's like, Paula, Rachel, whatever.
What do you mean? She never saw anything. She has no idea what happened to these people.
Yeah, and just how many of the spirits, you know, it'd be nice to think that Paula, Rachel got to be the one to take out Bianca, but in reality, there's just so many that descend on Bianca that it's like, couldn't even pick her out, because there's just that
I think
many.
that it actually says in this that
It
she
does, but
but
it says, too, that, like, just so many.
Well, she gets the first bite out of her, and then she gets swallowed in us. So, yes,
Right.
I suppose.
But before that, Bianca tries to make her escape with Susan, so, you know, there's that. She tries.
Wah, wah. Doesn't work very well.
Yeah, once it all starts going down. And he hasn't forgot about Justine, because he's still at the top of the stairs. So when all of a sudden he unleashes this devastating, heart-wrenching horror on them, he's like, hey, Justine, let's go.
Yeah, they make their break for it.
So yeah, and meanwhile, between like the ghosts zooming up and him like burning patches of it, like the floor collapses and he's got to like skirt his way around and like not fall into this giant void.
And I think this could be another powerful moment for Harry. Another powerful moment for Harry's, like, mental health. That's not the word I wanted to use, but, like, when Rachel comes to it and doesn't go after Harry. She goes after Bianca.
It's affirming to what she said, that she wasn't after him.
Yeah.
Or doesn't blame him, rather.
Doesn't blame him, right? It's like, as much as Bianca maybe spent the last year being like, you're the fucking reason she died, Rachel has no qualms about who her killer was.
Yeah.
And she not only does she not go for him, she actually saves Susan, too. So it's not like she gets in the way of Bianca's blind rage. And she was going to attack Susan.
Yeah,
Gets right in the way of it. Stops her.
Figures if she's like, fine, if I'm going to get out of this, I'm still going to take this damn woman with me.
Yeah.
And you still don't get her.
Right.
Right. And is trying to make a break for it, and then just between the chaos is when, you know, her hold, like her trance hold on Susan starts to waver, and Susan starts going, what the fuck is going on around here? And yeah, basically when she gets cut off again, and, you know, Dresden trying to throw everything at her is exactly, it's like, well, if I can't have her, you can't either. And yeah, goes to deliver the killing blow there, and yeah, exactly, is Rachel is the one that intervenes. Right, and that is always kind of, it's interesting, because, like, okay, a lot of them are very spectral, right? They're making bodies out of fire, they're making bodies out of smoke, some of them used all these spent bullets, right? So you tend to think of these ghosts as being very, like, ephemeral. So was this part of the spell of Dresden infusing them with enough energy to be more whole, or was this sort of a cinematic of, you know, like Rachel just, because Rachel gets the slash, and he's like this gout of, like, ghostly blood.
Well, if we like think back to Agatha Hagglethorn, like she has a bit of a corporeal, because her axe was able to hit
damage.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess as that did, is it just that he sort of has poured enough in with making.
Well, and Harry said, too, like, part of what makes a ghost able to interact is if things that make sense with their death, right? Like, Hagglethorn could act on the baby, she could act on the strangulation, she could act on the axe, but she couldn't have, you know, done much in, like, a library throwing books or something like that, because
Right.
that just had nothing to do with her torment and her agony and the reason she was a ghost to begin with, right? So I think, you know, the fact that they're in the mansion where they died with their abusers right there, that is what they are here to interact with.
I suppose,
right?
Yeah. It always kind of surprised me. I just wasn't expecting, you know, I mean, I know, yeah, she took the, you know, corporeal enough to.
Of course, you've got to throw in a cinematic spin on the climax.
The blow and save Susan, but yeah, it's just always kind of like, I was not expecting sort of the fountain of blood. You know, I figured you just rip her open, but you're a ghost. There's no blood to splatter, you know, kind of, but
still.
Regardless whether, yes, it is what it is, any one of those.
It's one of those things like, you know, Rachel in her mind is a human, so she herself would imagine her body being torn open and having ghosts, you know? And maybe if Rachel had been like a ghost longer, she might, like, you know, like forget that she's supposed to bleed, but she's only had like a year and she's still used to the human. Like, I bleed when I'm slashed, so my ghost is going to bleed when it's slashed.
Right, maybe.
So in that attack, Rachel embraces Bianca. And Dresden at the same time catches her with a spell, which basically smashes her through the floor and through it. And then that's where all the rest of the ghosts come in and pull her the rest of the way.
Pile on and suck her down, and that is it.
I did like that when the ghost like the initial ghost that attacked her, like that they set her on fire. Like, I thought that was such a neat
Yes, because that was some of the, I'm assuming that was the one, because he does say, like, one of the oldest ones or something, made their body out of flames when they first. So I would assume it was something like that. It was like one of these ghost ones, because he's like, as soon as it touched her, she like enveloped her in flames or whatever, right? So you imagine this like crazy ghosty fire monster
Ghost
thing.
Rider sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess, right? Yeah.
It was cool. I liked it.
Very cool.
It was, yeah.
So she's down. She's gone. She got her just desserts. And
would have been an amazing villain
smoke.
to keep around longer, but I like her better dead.
I think this was a great way for her to have gone. Like, I think her lasting 2 books was just fine.
Well,
good.
How do you like that dress of fire now? Now you're like literally draped in flames and.
Tell us, Harry, is she wearing anything underneath?
Not anymore.
Not when they're ghost run with her.
The house begins to collapse in on itself. Dresden is finally just wiped out, and Susan has to grab him and help him out of the house.
Yes, because he threw that last spell, and the ghosts got to her first.
His Hail Mary.
That was his Hail Mary, and exactly that was, which I get, resurrecting that many ghosts. Like you say, touch each and every one, because he even says, when he first says, he's like, the power that he poured into them, making them nearly tangible, right? So again, as we know, this was a bunch of weak-ass.
They're all weak-ass, but 4,000 of them.
Yeah, and, the barriers and all of that, but yeah, exactly. And he feels, I like this, because at first you're thinking, like, was that Susan? But he's like, feel like these small but strong hands, and then he's like, and then Susan keeps like, oh, that was Justine trying to, that was Justine initially trying to get him up and then Susan thankfully just had the more strength to make it happen, but it's just, because, I remember the first time I read it, just that when you saw like small but strong hands, and I'm like, oh, there's Susan, and then it was like, no. And also Susan came along.
There was a really cool pop culture reference. At least this is how I saw it. I might just be seeing it there, but
Who knows?
we had gone no more than a dozen paces when it collapsed with a roar. We turned and saw the house drawing in upon itself, sucked down into the earth, into an inferno of flame. Now, this to me is a direct reference to the Poltergeist, where the house implodes in on itself at the end.
Oh, I have not seen that movie.
Yeah,
I don't
the
do a
ghost
lot of
attack
horror.
in that one.
Okay.
The family gets out of the house, and just as they get out of the house, the whole house like
Vacuumed.
It vacuums in on itself all the way into the ground, and then sucks into nothing. Like it's gone. It's really
Like the Looney Tunes.
It's a really cool scene. Like, but that's exactly what this reminds me of. Is that
Okay.
right there?
Yes.
Jim Butcher? Referencing something?
No.
Never.
Get out of here, Tanzan.
With his inverted back bust.
So Dresden tells Susan he loves her, and she tells him she loves him too.
I love you.
And then he proceeds to lose consciousness.
As he does.
Again. And I'm spent.
Not a Dresden book if he doesn't pass out.
So many guys out there. I love you.
Wow.
That was great. That was good for me. Was that good for you? And a
Yeah, I love you too, baby. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I hope we're done.
He just started a war, saved his
Doesn't matter,
girlfriend. Can he
Maya.
catch a break?
I want to cuddle, hon, but I'm just really, really tired.
Just exploded a house, people. Give him a minute.
Come on, he's 25. He should only need a minute.
Isn't raising the dead like against one of the laws?
Well, that they're
he
still
didn't
dead.
really
He's not actually raising them.
He didn't.
Okay.
Just,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's just
Necromancy is
inflicting
actually
dead on dead.
That's true because the vampires.
Yeah, the vampires
aren't
don't count as
really
human.
Yeah.
That's how he made that whole werewolf justification.
Again,
They're not technically humans. But it counts for me.
Technicalities, right? He didn't really sick him on it either. He just gave some power
They
to
got
that.
the revenge.
and got
What
the
they
fuck
do with
out.
it has nothing to do with me.
Exactly, right?
They're mad at Bianca. That has nothing to do with me.
Right? I was just there.
And yet, the war somehow still started. That's not fair.
So unfair. So unfair.
You know what? That damn Paulo. That darn Paulo witness.
Paulo Ortega.
That stupid bitch really covered her bases.
Yeah.
I guess he did make it out because he makes another appearance. Yeah.
Well, because, lucky for him, he didn't have any victims in this house.
Yeah, or at least not enough that they weren't
'cause
focused directly on him.
Wait, he is from the same court.
He's from the same court, but I think
he's not part of
I think this
her-
helps shows that, like, just because she was making big names for himself, he was still way above her pay grade. He's like, I don't need to come and hang out at your stupid brothel. I got my own bitches.
Right.
Yes. Yeah,
He was not guilty by association.
He was a visiting dignitary.
Listen, we learn later on how the wardens are kind of stationed about the world.
He had diplomatic immunity, okay? He's like, bitches, I am not. You go eat those. Okay, just stick your ghosts over there on those guys. I'm just a
This
piece
is
out
an American
over here.
vampire problem. I got nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like we'll wizard out. We'll figure out later how the wizards are like how the wardens are stationed. Every warden gets their own demographic,
Kinda, yeah.
city geographical demographic. And like the vampires do as well, but we don't understand exactly to their extent. So did Bianca have all of America, or did she just have the East? Midwest, like
just the Great
right?
Lakes area.
But we do
Yeah,
know,
right.
or we will learn, that Paulo's got like all of South America is his domain, sort of a thing, right? So yeah, he's like, I don't need Bianca's Chicago brothel. I've got wherever the fuck he is.
Yeah, I would say based on that, there's probably, again, another higher up that would maybe have, sort of the Americas or the North America, or, but yeah, Bianca definitely wasn't.
had her
I don't-
good.
Yeah, she wouldn't have had all of, like, North America yet or anything like that. She wasn't that, but a chunk. But anyways, point being.
High up enough she felt good to take on Harry, not high enough to succeed.
Exactly. And fade to black. Thank you to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us to do what we do. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at www.patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 39. Dresden recovers in the hospital while Kravos' many victims recover as well. Susan stays in contact with Harry, but no longer comes to see him. Dresden dedicates his time to finding a cure for Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently he comes too.
Finds himself at the hospital sharing a room with Charity.
I regard it as one last sadistic jibe of whatever power had decided to make my life a living hell, that the burn ward was full, and I was given a room to share with Charity Carpet. Karma's a bitch, hey, Harry?
I wonder, just because they knew each other, would you mind? Michael's like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, right. Mike would be, my two favorite people right here in one room. Aw. Yeah.
Charity gives him death glares. You didn't.
Imagine you're just trying to recover and there's some lady in the corner with a voodoo doll specifically against you. Die, 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 die.
Good thing Charity and Michael are so devout and she doesn't believe in voodoo dolls. Otherwise, Harry'd be in trouble.
Oh, God, yeah. So the baby recovered, which is great.
So yeah, this is what I think we alluded to at an earlier when we were talking about whether all these people would just snap back or whether Harry had all that power or where it went. We were kind of talking about that in the last episode, and that if he took all this power, like, where did it go from, like, Murphy and the baby and Charity? But apparently most of those people got that back, so Harry just managed to hang on to Kravos. Maybe that's it. Maybe if it doesn't have anywhere else to go. So, like, everybody else that were, like, living people...
Had a vessel to return to.
Got theirs back. And since Kravos was already dead and didn't have it, and whatever else he may have stole it from or killed or whatever, Harry got to retain all that power and squish that into his little Play-Doh mold.
So he still levels up, though?
He still levels up.
Still
Because
levels
he
up,
still
but
took
not
all
quite
of
as much.
Kravos's, but he's
The
not
victims
keeping...
who are dead, Harry gets the power. The victims who are still alive get their own power.
Yeah.
Because the dead aren't getting their shit back.
Yeah.
'Cause they're
Yeah.
Ah, I see the
So
gray logic here
Murphy
now.
gets her bite back, and Charity gets her bite back, and the baby gets his bite back, but
Sorry,
Harry still got
you
an
had to go
extra
and die before I could save you. That's on you.
that's on you.
You're not gonna-
Should have held on a little longer.
Right? So, yeah, so we find, so yeah, we're gonna name him Harry. And Harry's like, oh, Michael, Harry Carpenter?
What did this kid ever do to you?
Ah, poor baby.
Made me feel good, and they kept the name.
Yeah.
Very cute.
So, yeah.
Harry, Michael names
Charity
his baby
was
after
kind
Harry.
of grudgingly about it,
But still did it
but
anyway.
still did it.
Yeah.
So she, yeah.
Get careful, Charity. You can't show a moment of weakness with Harry.
That's right.
So Michael and Fourth Hill.
Me and my baby and my husband.
So Michael and Fourth Hill kept vigil over Harry while he recovered in the hospital too. And Michael has his sword back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody says anything to him the whole time. He's in the hospital with his sword.
And like, I don't know, like this whole house collapsed on itself, and what, like Michael just pulled it out of the stone? Like,
No, he had it because Thomas brought it back, remember?
oh yeah, I fully forgot about that. Damn, I'm like, so the whole house
It was a
collapsed
piece
on
of it,
itself, and like just among the rubble, like Michael walked up and found it.
The Lord works in mysterious
Yeah.
ways.
I
The
forgot,
house
yeah.
just crumbled around it and left this sword.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what he did with Arthur.
Right, because he left them in the Never Never.
Yeah, I'd totally forgotten.
He did.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right,
he did
right,
not
right.
have to dig it out of the rubble, thankfully. And Harry thankfully had collected all his doodads on his way out, so he didn't have to go searching through the rubble to collect his skull or anything.
That was very
either.
useful.
Very. I was going to be going to have it all nice and neat there, because it would have taken him forever to search that place.
So Harry confesses to Michael that he's worried about the repercussions of his actions, and Michael basically tells him that he might be
is great.
a repercussion of others' actions.
Yeah, I really do. And again, just the way Marsters reads this and everything, is I like that, because he's like, I'm not a philosopher, Harry. He's like, but sometimes you get what's going around. Sometimes you are what's going around.
So I think it's a little bit of both because he unfortunately does cause a war, so he is going to have repercussions nonetheless.
Yes, there are some things that are still going to come back around to Harry.
This is a
but-
really great moment for Harry not to self-flagellate himself, at least for 5 minutes.
Well, exactly, right? It is and again, coming from Michael of all people, right? Then you sort of like that holds a lot of weight. And yeah, it's like, again, you didn't really kill any of the innocents. That part's not on you, and you took out a lot of the monsters that did harm. And you gave closure to a lot of the souls that were already there, from years past in that, right? Because again, now that those ghosts have the power and did it, you've got to assume that they've all finished and moved on and, whatever, right? So I mean, yeah, it was an act of destruction, but it was also an act of, like, release and everything for them, right? So, yeah, it's like, yeah, you did bad, but you did it in the name of... And I mean, like, even that, right? Like, what does Leah say to him? Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Like, you know, Jesus was all about the peace and the love and love thy brother. But God, you know, by all rights, was a big, scary, fearsome creature, too. It's like, I'll give you...
That whole Old Testament is pretty brutal.
He totally promised not to do that Noah's Ark thing a second time.
Right? But, you know, but this is it. It's like, hey, you toe the line, you do what's right, you got an everlasting paradise. If you don't, I will smite your ass. And take that serious, right? So it's like, this is, you know, Harry maybe did a little smiting here, but, you know, sometimes violence is called for in the right...
But does he have a right to do smiting?
Luckily for Harry, there's the New Testament, which saves his butt.
Well, there you go, right? But...
Oh, that was handy Catholics.
It's got a new deal.
We got to rebrand, guys. Going into a new age.
You gotta make it work. You gotta. So, you know, sometimes...
Yeah, we had to find out that Michael was that they were able to escape the Never Never, but Thomas had broken them through into a gentleman's club, a house of sin, as Michael puts it.
Flesh pit. He's like, hey, I'm not a wizard. It's just whatever resonates. It's like a house of sin, a gentleman's club.
It's a great comedy moment. I really like it.
Right. This is, yeah. So Murphy comes out of her spell within a couple of days, feeling a little better.
Now, honest to God,
physically feeling better.
if you are out there in the world, and you don't like Murphy, and you've only read Stormfront, fine. You don't like Murphy, and you've only read Full Moon, fine. But you've read Grave Peril, and you don't like Murphy? What's wrong with you? Because this whole moment here is just like, this is Murphy, and this is Harry, and this is Murphy and Harry.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude.
Yeah.
How do you not like Murphy?
Right.
Yeah. She's
I think this was probably the first time when I was reading it that I was like, oh, she didn't have to do it. She didn't have to do any of that. Like,
yeah, she goes to the thing, and then she's, you get that vulnerability from her where she's like, I couldn't stop him, I tried. And Harry's like, yo, I barely managed, and like, a lot of other wizards that got sucker punched like that wouldn't have been able, like, I just got lucky because people wanted to taunt me and tease me along kind of a thing, right? But he's like, but we beat him, he's there, we're here. And she's like, yeah, you did. And he's like, hey, come on. Oh, that is, I guess, when he gets the sucker punch thing. But then the silence, right? When he realizes that she stopped talking because she's crying, and he would hear it in her voice, but the rain, because it's the typical, open grave in a cemetery pouring rain.
And like the only people who are at this funeral is the gravediggers, Harry and Karen.
Yeah, an official came to...
the official came to whatever,
do the official, blah, blah, blah,
whatever.
Your dad, rest in peace, and left.
do you think they did this for closure, or why do you think they attended? Because it's kind of strange that they would attend the funeral.
So, for me, I think, as much as it's closure for them, Kravos' whole thing was, like, unresting souls. And they came to just, like, give Kravos
Dude is
his
dead.
rest.
He's in there. He's staying. Make sure he's put to peace.
Sure, salt the body, but also at the same time, it's like his whole thing was, like, these vengeful ghosts who were left loose in the world. I think giving acknowledgement to his funeral was just a little bit more like lay the spirit to rest. Whatever emotional attachment is there, like, here, two people have come to your funeral. You're not...
Maybe, but... See, I don't know. I didn't take that. A lot of his was... Like, again, I always thought they did it more as a necromancer, which was, like, raising...
Just to make sure he doesn't come up. I'm
people,
sure that was a total other thing.
Again, all those people, too. I mean, all those kids he would have murdered, I'm sure had funerals, and their spirits apparently weren't laid to rest, so... I don't know that, maybe you're right. Maybe that's something. I just don't know.
I think,
the way
I think for, like, Harry and Murphy, just to double check that this guy is really, truly in the ground, sure. But I still think, like, the fact that they were just like, listen, like...
Maybe, yeah.
Like, this is, And, yeah, sure, like, also just, like, for themselves, like, just put an end to it. Like, this was a fucking hard week.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And months
because it was
dealing
really
with
a shared trauma for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, I think more my perspective of it for Murphy is that facing your fears kind of a thing. Like, we didn't really get to see much of it here. Things have been alluded to, but we will find out sort of in times to come, where we find out a little bit more of what it was that Murphy went through in this experience, right? So it hasn't sort of been laid out for us in black and white yet. But, you know, just, again, given her comments and stuff here, right, where she's like, I couldn't stop him, right? You know, this was a huge violation of her person and everything. And that, I think, is just that, you know, getting back out and facing it. Like, fuck you, you're not going to stop me. You're not going to make a victim of me. And I will come to your damn funeral and I will make, you know, and that sort of a thing, too, I think has always sort of been, for me, part of what it was with Murphy and that she's like, I'm not going to let you stop me, you son of a bitch. You know.
Making it a last stand in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm here, you know.
Yeah, because she wasn't conscious for any of that sort of fight back. So this is probably her way of being like, fuck you.
Yeah. Exactly, right.
We
Her
won.
moment of closure and facing it and seeing for herself that he's, I don't know.
So while they're at they see the headstone while they're at the graveyard.
So Kravos got a plot.
This is why, right? I was like, okay, I get it's convenient to have it sitting waiting to go up and Murphy to see it and bring on this, but at the same, I was like, how the fuck does Kravos get a spot in Graceland? Like, who did he, like, did
He
Bianca
dug up
just
the body that was
shower?
there before.
Oh, right? Like, that part is a little bit like, I'm like, okay, we already figured this out last time, and I don't know that there's a lot
Bianca's got so much money that she can get Harry a plot, no problem. But Kravos, if you, what's that, like that
That
Jim
part of
Jeffries
the
joke?
deal?
Jim Jeffries joke is like, if you've got $30,000, you don't need to kill people. You're a great little saver. Keep going.
I guess she knew that he was going to die, so maybe she just planned ahead. While she
was that part of the... It's like,
maybe
why
she
did
got
you
two-
add it?
Bianca also
Throw me in a nice...
2-for-1 deal.
That makes sense why they're so close. Because I looked up where Inez's grave would be, and first of all, unless Murphy's just pushing him through the grass, there's no reason she should see this from the sidewalk.
Well, it does say that it's ready.
Next to a waiting
next
plot.
to a waiting plot. No, it is.
Yeah, like,
damn
she's-
it. I was thinking for a second that it was
No,
just there
like-
waiting to be installed, but you're right, they are going past.
Yeah, like
his-
it's at the spot where it
Yeah.
should be, but it's not very far. It's only the second row over from the grave path. So you could easily see Inez's thing, but just a headstone in the rain. I'm like,
maybe they're cutting through. I don't know.
You just really wanted to point it
But
out.
seriously,
Not
seriously,
supposed
right?
to.
But even then, it's more written as the fact like they accidentally stumbled upon it, and McAnally
Yeah,
was just
right.
like, Harry Dresden, he died doing the right thing. What the fuck is this? And he's like, oh, whatever.
Not yet, not today.
But yeah.
Not today, Satan.
But that brings up another
Yeah,
point.
right. Thank you.
Okay, so
I like that, Bianca.
traditionally speaking,
Thank you, Del Rio.
all grave plots are about 6 feet, 8 feet to include the headstone. No, 6 feet, because you put that over part, right? So, like, every grave plot is
6
roughly
feet
spaced out to be about 6
deep.
feet in length, right?
Sure.
6 feet down, but let's say about 6 feet wide across, just to accommodate everyone, right?
Yeah.
But, like,
Harry needs a double line.
well, that's what I'm saying, though. I'm like, he just gets part of Inez's, because
fold
she's
him in
just...
half.
Inez was just, like, a 5-year-old, so, like, he just, like, curl around into her space, like... Because, like, it's just funny to think, like, she's got, like, such tiny space, and then there's just his next to it.
Harry's just like in an L shape.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I gotta
So, yeah, he's dead anyways. Who cares how you weigh him?
We find out that Lydia is taken care of by the church and she's been relocated, like some kind of witness protection program.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church has the equivalent of
Go find someone who believes you.
Hopefully she doesn't have to make too many more predictions.
Barbara somebody. Yeah.
I think she had problems before Kravos and Bianca. She'll keep having them. But maybe the church can help if she actually is willing to get the
They've got a
help.
warning label, no matter what, believe what she says.
Even still, people are like, probably not.
Anyways.
So Thomas sends Dresden a thank you letter for saving Justine, courtesy of a naked Justine tied in a bow.
So yes, sends Justine with a note. I'll let you guess where the bow was.
Hopefully it was a big bow.
Oh, well, hopefully. It doesn't really sound like it was.
Sounds like it would have been chilly to
Terribly.
making that delivery.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true. Oh, no, it's still summer. We're still summer. No time has passed between this, so maybe she's fine. But it is interesting here, too, where he talks about, you know, like, she's pretty enough. He's like, you know, this is the ick factor of sharing her with, like, a sex vamp or whatever. He's like, I didn't take the girl, but he's like, she's pretty enough and sweet enough when she wasn't walking the razor's edge of an organic emotional instability. He's like, but I could really hold it against her. Plenty of people have to take some kind of medication to keep stable. Lithium, supermodel, sex vampire, whatever works, I guess. So I guess Justine has stabilized out a little bit again and is doing well to be back with Thomas. So
And was also grateful enough to deliver this note to Harry.
Yeah, exactly. That she apparently had no problem with it, and yeah, that Harry's maybe learning to accept the alternate lifestyle there a little bit. That, you know, he was worried about Justine, but now maybe she is.
I don't know everything.
I don't know everything. I have seen the other side of her not being with him, and I...
Damn, girl, you really need a sex vampire.
Yeah, exactly. Can I get a prescription for that? Ugh. Anyways.
So Susan keeps contact via phone with Dresden while he's in the hospital.
Yeah, she calls every day.
Yeah.
It's not long.
He finds out that she's moved and is unable to make contact with her.
I know, he's like, first thing he does, and he gets out, like, heads to her apartment, and she doesn't live there anymore. I'm like,
ends up
wow, rude!
Yeah.
Like, your girlfriend just packs up and moves within, like, 3-4 days a week. I don't know how long he was in there for, but...
Uses a spell to go find her, finds her on the beach.
And, by the way, how much was it just the 12-ish hour? Yeah, I guess, because he took... Sorry, going back to Dresden recovering from this mushroom poisoning and that. So he'd taken it just before he went to Bianca's, and then that was 12-ish hours before he was done being tortured and woken up, and then I guess the whole thing. So I guess he still would have made it within his
18
16 or 18 hour. I was going to say, he's kind of pretty fine there, but...
Probably wasn't doing good.
Probably, yeah. I was like, wouldn't he be, like, mostly liquefied by then, Dresden? Just, who knows? Maybe he had to stay in the hospital a good while to recover from
He's supposed to be in the burn ward. They don't mention anything about
I
the
know!
poison.
That's the only thing that I've always found, like, somewhat unsatisfactory about the wrap-up of this book. Where, like, you made this big deal about this horrible poison that could kill him in anywhere from, like, 2 to 20 hours, and then it's just never mentioned again. It was like, okay, yeah, I know he flung fire around, but honestly, it sounded like he was going to have a lot more problems with the mushrooms than the fire.
Right, must have been
Maybe this is more time traveling things.
Right.
Ooh, maybe like Leah paused it and then one day she's gonna snap it back on.
By the way, you didn't jump on it in the last chapter, and I was expecting you to, and then I obviously forgot about it. But that get your hands off my girlfriend, is that the moment that you've been alluding to all book that you didn't jump on at the time? I mean, there's one at the party.
I guess he could have made
no,
it.
it's
he
chapter.
could have-
It's the one at the party.
Because I could have been that too.
No.
The also jumping into going with
Because if he had actually made the decision to
walk away,
let-
then there would
let
have been
Susan
a war.
go.
Yeah.
It is already confirmed. It was the party moment.
Oh, it was.
That like Jim Butcher's confirmed.
Oh.
It was the party.
Oh, okay. Well, fine then.
It was saving Lydia.
Okay, so anyways, moving right back along. So, yeah, she doesn't live there anymore. He can't get a hold of her at work. So he finally resorts to cheating.
Yes.
He does a tracking spell. Because thankfully she'd left like a brush and stuff behind. So he had some hair handy.
Finds her sunbathing. Learns that Thomas and Justine have been educating her in the ways of the vampires.
So this, on the one hand, you're like, oh, that's cool. Because she's like, yeah, I talked to Thomas and Justine. And then you're like, whoa, wait a second, back up. Thomas, the one that kicked you into the Barney and made
Yeah.
you? And now you got to go to him and be like, so how's all this work? I'm like,
And he doesn't even know fully because he's white, not red.
yeah, well, I'm sure he knows a fair bit about
But
it.
still.
She doesn't have much other concrete
I know, but
supernatural
it makes
resources
you-
beyond Harry.
I know, but I still don't
But
think
it
Thomas would be the guy I
Makes you
turn
wonder,
to.
like, does she not know? Does she not really remember with the haze and the trauma of all of that, that? Because I'm thinking if you know Thomas is the one that pushed you, you would be like, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. I don't care
If I
what
had to
you
choose
have.
between calling up Thomas or Harry, I think Harry would have won the draw there.
Yeah, she probably would have dug up some vampire flunky and, like, beat it out of him and then, staked him or something before she would have gone to Thomas to get... again, it's one of those
Well,
things
if
when you
that's
gloss over it and forget about it in the rereads, but I'm like, man, what?
And that might be just showing how much she wants to avoid Dresden because of like that he brings out this thirst in her, like that this hunger rather.
She's
she's
afraid and she
really
doesn't have a
doesn't
lot
She
of...
could have phoned for that, too. But yes, I just found it very, like, again, right? I'm like, we all just supposed to forget this. Because, again, I said it. I like Thomas. But
Even at that point, then, I'd be, like, in front of the mirror, like, you know, the whole Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary thing. I'd be like, Leah, 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 anyone.
Yeah,
I'm not calling
right.
the guy who kicked me in the chest and turned me into a vampire.
Well, kicked her in the back, but yeah, no, exactly. But
She's got that little tape
Anyways.
recorder. I'd been like, Mavra? What other names did I hear on this? Anyone but Thomas.
right.
Is there a Faravax out there?
Fuck, yeah, that.
Yeah, she's in a little bit of a rock and a hard place, really.
Yes.
But they kind of told her so. And yes, he finds her out on a beach because the sun helps. She can sort of forget during the day in the sunlight, but the nights are hard, and she has to lock herself in.
And then we get this tragic moment, a very, very sweet moment,
I still love you.
where Harry asks Susan to marry
No
him,
good at this.
and she says no.
She's very sweet about it, though. I mean, she doesn't fling it back in his face, figuratively or literally or anything like that.
She does set the boundaries and says that to not
gives him a
not
kiss.
come find her again.
Yeah.
And she pieces out. She
I'll call
leaves.
you. So yeah, he said he'd brag to Kravos that he could do anything, you know, if he knew it was coming, he could fight in his dreams, but this all took something out of him, and he's been having a lot of nasty nightmares.
Right. It's so sweet that Mr. comforts him
And
sleeps on
Mr.
his legs, make sure he
comes
feels safe.
Hers, and yes, the cat, the dread cat mister. But yes, and even Bob tries to get in a little bit of concern for him.
Yeah, because Dresden's really consumed at this point of finding, like, researching vampires and figuring out how to get Susan
Or
cured.
something. Yeah. And he's not really having it, you know, but Bob eventually gets through to him a little bit because he's like, oh yeah, he's like, the council sent a notice. So we get confirmation. The council's at war. Paris and Berlin went into chaos almost a week ago, and the council is coming to Chicago for a meeting.
Right. Sets up the next book. Boom.
Sets up the next book. Yeah. So yeah, he's like, they're going to want to know what happened. And he's like, yeah, I sent them my report. I only did what was right or as close to it as I could manage. I couldn't let them have her, Bob. I couldn't. It's like, I don't know if that'll hold up. Well, it has to. And then Michael shows up with a care. Michael and Murphy show up
Right.
with a care package for him and drag him away a little bit and sort of make him, you know, re-enter the world a bit. And yes, talk to your friends for a moment, have some soup, shave, apparently. Michael pointedly had a razor in there for him. So, right, but it does, again, just so few words, and it gives you a really good picture of how obsessive and whatever that Harry is not looking at. He's not eating, he's not sleeping, he's not bathing himself, he's not shaving, he's, you know what I mean? Like,
Very single-focused, yeah.
single focus, single-minded, one track, just very, like you say, all consumed and getting obsessive with this, right? Which is also just heartbreaking in its own sense. So
So I didn't realize that Michael and Murphy knew each other, at least until this point, that they come with a care package.
Yeah. Well, they did work with each other on the Kravos case.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But,
whether before
even if they don't
then-
know each other that well. And yeah, like Michael Murphy and Dresden are not really presented as like, you know, the golden trio like Harry Potter.
The Three
and his
Musketeers.
Three Musketeers, even Percy Jackson, Grover and Annabeth. Like,
Yeah.
they're not the same three fighting crime against the world. It is generally just Harry and Murphy or Harry and Michael.
Yeah.
But these are his two best friends in the entire universe. These are
Yeah.
the two people besides Susan who cares about him the most.
Yeah, and again, right, you could see under the circumstances and that, right, I could see Michael, you know, like, hey, have you heard from him? And Murphy being like, no, not really, and then, you know what I mean? Like, you know, even if Murphy wasn't necessarily the first one to, you know, I could see, again, Michael being that sort of
We're both capable our own style of
tape,
steamrolling.
yeah, exactly, you know, of him sort of, again, just the basic concern that Michael is and the family man and all that kind of stuff. And be like, hey, have you heard from Harry lately? I haven't heard from him. You know what's going on? No, okay, let's go. And Murph being like, yeah, okay, yeah, let's.
Yeah, so it's evident
Stupid
that
dumbass, probably
he
like
does
doing
have
it.
a really good support system.
Yeah.
He does, yeah. And there's another moment in there too when he explains that like just because Bianca's gone, like
You're not safe.
it like Chicago has gotten darker. He's like anyone with an ounce of magical talent right now is not going out.
Yes, even all the have-nots.
It's like anyone who knows to be afraid is deathly afraid. Whatever's happening in Chicago is really bad right now.
Yeah.
So whatever sort of vacuum power
Yeah, I was just
that
thinking that, like-
Bianca left
Yeah.
is being
Well,
filled
and
by
I mean, it's
something
not
nastier.
even just entirely a vacuum because it started a war. So that's it, is that the vamps are out to get anybody with magical powers and might be a wizard or might be close to a wizard or know anything about, right? So that's the other thing
he
is
says
that...
the pizza delivery guy tried to get him with a bomb. Like, it's like...
Yeah, which we don't know that the pizza guy, but he just somebody bombed his pizza. That's just like not cool. That's just not cool. Council's gonna be furious, but what else is new? Susan doesn't call, doesn't visit, but I got a card from her on my birthday, Halloween. She only wrote 3 words. I'll let you guess what they were.
The
Or I
important
guess
ones.
what 3? I miss you.
I miss you.
Sure.
I love you.
Sure.
Fuck you, Harry.
Sure. Thomas dead yet?
Kill that bastard.
Blood light, please.
I want your blood. Oh, that's 4. Never mind. Yeah, Grave Peril. It's a doozy. It's sad. I do legitimately enjoy Grave Peril, okay? I do like it. I just...
Yeah.
It's a slow pace to go
It's-
through it.
it's
really.
honestly-
It was almost 6 months.
Yeah. And, like, again, he gets better and better and better and better as the books go through. He's got, like, I mean, like, he's credited with Grave Peril for having a lot in the series and for setting up a lot of what the tone is going to be for the books. But he's still not quite there to make it always interesting. Sometimes it's just a bit too much information overload and
There is a lot,
so
yeah.
much. And it's like, I like the lore, I love the world, but sometimes it's just like, God damn, right? And this
Pick
one
up the
is
pace,
so
let's go,
dark
yeah.
too. So you're getting such darkness and so much lore and so much information.
Right.
And like as hilarious as Harry will always be and as much as his quips, that end really droops for a while, right? Like there's just it
That's a
goes
bit of
a
a sucker punch
while
there.
before, you know, like even like when he's jumping between the Never Never and Bianca's basement and Kravos' fight, like even when you're getting that quips with the bad guy, it's still just so heavy that it's like it's hard to be like right? And it picks up a bit better. Even Summer Night, when we get to that one, it's a fuck ton of lore with a lot of goddamn action and go, 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 go. It's a, like, you know.
Right. Well, and Butcher's really trying to set up that whole world that he hasn't really
Yes,
necessarily in the
yes.
first 2 books.
The first 2 books was just Chicago.
But now he knows where he's going in this
No,
larger
yeah.
narrative. that
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
This is all the information that you need
Getting away from him.
for the next 6, 7 books at least, longer.
This one specifically pretty much 8.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's a good ride. It's good. Now we can all decompress for a few weeks and get rid of the feels.
Right. Yes.
This is
I guess
it.
we should say this is our last episode for 5 weeks.
Just 5 weeks.
Just 5
Whatever.
weeks.
You gave a really long pause after this is our last episode.
We are taking a 5-week hiatus to
Build up the bank.
catch up on our lives, do other
Yeah.
shit.
We'll still be recording. Just
And
Yeah, we're still recording, but we're not publishing.
yeah.
So,
doing our research and doing our homework.
yes.
Yes, some people went out and got different jobs and things and screwed up the whole schedule. So now we all got to figure out when we can all.
What the fuck, Tanzan?
I tell you, always the problem in this group. I tell you.
She edits out her problems. And
Yeah, I know.
Works for me.
So yes, our first episode back will be July 1st with Summer Night. Woohoo! We'll see you all then.
So yes, thanks everybody. Don't go away.
Don't go away.
Feel free, do some rereads, catch up on Summer Night.
If you miss us, say hello on Discord because we'll be there.
Yeah.
All of our social media will still be going. Our Discord will still be active. Our Patreon will still be active.
Yeah. Fingers
for
crossed.
us talking to you and putting up videos and other dumb shit. We're
Yeah.
gonna do shit in that 5 weeks, just not official episodes.
Yeah, it just won't be full episodes every week anymore for a little
5 weeks,
while.
yeah.
Yeah. But that's it. So, woohoo.
This concludes our episode 8.21, Settled the Score. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.